again from WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal. I'm Josh Manning, Deputy Managing Editor for Assignment here at the Western Journal. It's Inauguration Day. It's been busy. Biden's already burning down the country. I've got a lot on my mind right now. Joining me today are, to my right, Andrew Shasha, and to my left, Michael Austin, both reporters for the Western Journal. And we're here to talk about, yesterday we talked a whole lot about sort of wrapping up Trump's presidency, some of his accomplishments. We're going to spend today talking about what to expect from the Biden administration. I'm going to lead us off with a few things that we've noticed so far, and then we're going to push on to more specific topics that both of you guys have prepared. But off the top, I want to talk with you about 7 or 8 things that I've just noticed. In how long has he been president? 4 hours, 4.5 hours, something like that.
Yep.
About 7 or 8 things we've already noticed that are that are telling. First off, one of the things that got our attention immediately was within minutes of him being I was going to say Vice President Biden, of President Biden being sworn in, we saw a change to the U.S. ambassador to Israel. We saw a change in his title on his Twitter account. It shifted from U.S. ambassador to Israel to U.S. ambassador to Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Now, almost as quickly as that happened, it reverted. And the White House is not saying where that change came from. There's been talk about, maybe it happened over on Twitter's side while they're migrating accounts and this and that and the other. I don't believe that for a moment.
No.
So the first thing, let's just do these quickly. We'll do kind of a lightning round here. So,
Sure.
All right, what do you responded just so strongly to that. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really come at any surprise. We would expect the Biden administration to not be as amenable to Israel.
I think it's nice we have an ambassador now to places infested with terrorists.
Yeah, people who democratically elected terrorists.
Yeah. It makes sense to me.
It's nonsensical. I mean, we've talked about throughout the campaign trail, we talked about the idea that Biden was going to kind of shill to the progressive movement. He was going to sell out. That's a pretty big start right there. I mean, we heard from, it was people like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib who made that a big deal throughout the last session of Congress. And so just to see that kind of move from the fringe of the Congress to the executive
right in your face. Yeah.
Immediately it's incredibly telling.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. And it is that thing. We've really seen it for the last 4 years. It's this repeated pattern of where we see something on the left and the Democrats say, it's on the fringe. That's not mainstream. It doesn't represent us. And then boom, you got a Twitter account name change. And all of a sudden the ambassador's title has changed. So it's still not clear who's responsible for that. And I doubt if anybody will ever take responsibility for it. But I think it's as far as I'm concerned, it's doubtless it came out of the White House and then they got caught doing it. It actually went viral and they erased it as quickly as they can. It's fun to think about what else might happen, though. If that's the level of competence we have on day one, starting out, when presumably they're super cautious, I can't wait to see what else happens.
Might have been the fastest ending internship ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably,
exactly. Did you have something else you wanted to add?
Nope.
All right. Number 2, Keystone's dead. The Keystone XL pipeline, well, it's not dead. It's suspended.
Yep.
At least that's what the company behind it has said. They've got about 300 miles of pipeline done now, but there will be no new construction on it. Biden has either signed or is in the process of signing executive orders that will do that. Truly remarkable, because that will nuke, estimates say, 8,000 union jobs.
Yes. Yeah.
Union jobs, organized labor. The people who we tried to say, folks, he's coming for you. This is the reason we won the Rust Belt. Whoever thought conservatives would win the Rust Belt? And 8,000 union jobs gone like that. What's interesting is you actually have officials in Canada saying this is a really bad move. It's going to cost jobs on both sides.
Yep.
And it turns out it's a heck of a lot safer to move petroleum crude through a pipeline than through trains or trucks or ships. Amazing. So what do we think of this?
Just performative, just, kowtowing to the environmentalists on the left. So
this is not you think it's complete theater. This is not a conviction Biden has. This is just, okay, they hate this thing. It's
he might
symbolic.
have that conviction, but it's been brought about by a bunch of activists that don't really know what they're talking about.
AOC.
So
Yeah.
So
not to mention just the tone deafness of it. I mean, we heard on the campaign trail about how Biden was the man from Scranton. He was a blue collar kid.
Yeah.
He grew up in a blue collar family, and this is what we're seeing is
with organized labor.
Exactly. And we're going to see that
fire those
fall
union
away.
guys. Down with the Teamsters.
Not to mention, we just saw one of the worst economic years in a long time as a result, other than 2008. As a result of the COVID pandemic. It's out of anyone's hands. I mean, the decisions that were made as a result, foolish, and they tanked the economy for a short period of time. We know we're seeing kind of a bounce back, but to come in and say you're going to prioritize the economy and then decide to lop off 8,000 jobs off the head is pretty ridiculous.
Well, this wasn't on my list, but you brought it up, and Michael, you were talking about this ahead of time. What's happening with COVID vaccinations, and the Biden administration is already saying, "Hey, you talk about it."
Yeah, so they've said the Biden administration has said that they're going to prioritize a equitable distribution of the COVID vaccine, which, for those that don't know, that means that they're going to focus on getting it into minority communities, black communities, when in reality they should be distributing it to the people most at risk, older people,
which will get the most at risk,
and
minorities.
Yeah, it'll reach the same underserved people that it should, but also it'll reach a lot of old white people that need to get it too. But, just going back to what we were talking about, the administration has said they are taking the same approach to the economy. So we have there's a lot of people
out now.
A lot of people talking today. This is the first ever presidential administration that is focusing the economy around equitable treatment of people, basically of social justice causes.
Yeah, and that is Marxism. That's Marxism 101. The Soviet Union was not concerned with they wanted to be as wealthy a country as possible, but it was less important, at least ideological, to be wealthy than to have the wealth distributed equitably.
It's at the worst time imaginable as well, because coming off the heels of the Trump administration, we essentially see evidence that if you look at the proper indicators and you tailor your economy towards that, towards trade, towards manufacturing, you see that minority communities are lifted up because a rising tide lifts all ships. And so immediately we're going to turn and we're going to get an example of exactly the opposite.
Yes, and Trump's model, you end up with 100% employment.
Yes.
I can't remember the last time we were at that point. So, okay, quickly, Sleepy Joe turns out is contagious. We learned that this morning. Highly contagious. He managed to put Bill Clinton to sleep during his inauguration speech. I am so sorry we don't have video of that. Our producer asked me if I needed a video ahead of time, and I said, oh, no, I don't need a video. And so now you guys are left high and dry. Anyway, you can go to westernjournal.com and see the video. But anyway, I mean, this was not it was kind of a milquetoast speech. I didn't think it was horrible. He did play the white guilt card. Do you guys have any thoughts on the inauguration speech?
No, I thought it was fine. It wasn't, Obama's 2008 speech. And even that, I mean, most people would kind of weigh in on the idea that 2008, the rhetoric on the campaign trail in 2007 and 2008 was far better than the 2009 inauguration speech. I mean, it was milquetoast. It was boring. Poor Bill Clinton. I have almost nothing substantive to say about him. The man's been run ragged. He just looks terrible these days. I mean, the poor guy.
I think at this point he's just old. Yeah. We were talking about that in the newsroom. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with him. If he looked like this 20 years ago, I'd have said it was a raging case of VD.
Yeah.
But a deadly case, perhaps a fatal case of syphilis, terminal. Anything?
It was a good speech. A lot there. I've seen a lot of conservatives actually say it was a really good speech, but in the end, a lot of those words were hollow. So
I appreciated the calls for unity. The problem was the speech was when it wasn't punctuated by calls for unity, it was punctuated with things that were incredibly divisive.
Yeah.
Talking about basically casting the country as 400-year-old racist institution.
Yeah, what we talked about earlier, just
not helpful.
Focusing on race with everything, that's not going to bring about unity.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Okay, quickly. Oh, love it. Massive racism from Justice Sotomayor. I don't know if you were watching.
Yes.
She was the one who swore in Kamala Harris. And if you guys remember when Harris got the VP nomination, her first name became a huge thing. If you mispronounced it, you were guilty of racism. We saw this reported all over the place. Her name is actually pronounced Kamala, like the punctuation mark, Kamala. Justice Sotomayor did not call her Kamala. She called her Kamala. Or Kamala, I can't remember which. One way or the other, it was wrong.
I'm be honest, I don't remember which one is right. But for some reason,
all of a sudden, it wasn't racist. It was remarkable. Yeah. I've never seen something become unracist that quickly before. So, folks, racism, it's gone. Congratulations, Biden's been elected. No more racism. Just like COVID's gone. Next up, we'll do these super quickly, or I'm gonna mess with y'all segments. The Spanish page at the White House is back. The White House now has an analogous, a Spanish analog. So it's the exact White House page, only in Spanish. I know of no better way to promote unity in a culture than by using two separate languages.
Yes.
The anthropologists tell us that's absolutely the way to unite a culture. Make sure two different languages are spoken so that half the population can't understand the other half. Gender neutral options are now present on White House forms that you can fill out online. You got a question you want to ask, I guess, President Biden. You can fill out a form, and now it has special pronouns and all of these things. So the science believing left, the science believing Democrats, big on science, not big on biology.
They, them, yeah.
Yeah, they, them. Let's see here. Oh, and of course the media bloodbath targeting President Biden has already begun. We are seeing stories. Brace yourselves. We're seeing stories about his German shepherds. I mean, that's hard-hitting journalism. Jim Acosta, he's in his element.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing. I think Cal Thomas, we ran a piece by Cal Thomas maybe yesterday that said that the media was going to go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's a really good way of looking at it.
It's another example of the fastest moving on from racist to non-racist thing ever. We heard amid the Trump administration that Ivanka Trump's white dog was a white supremacist dog whistle.
So what's a German Shepherd?
Yeah,
that sounds
German
like a Nazi dog whistle.
Yeah, we're talking about a Nazi dog here. I mean,
good Lord, there's a Nazi dog in the White House, folks. I'm sorry to report this. If we're going to be consistent.
Yeah.
We're going to be consistent.
Just going off on that a little bit, it's funny how the narrative has shifted from like, America is this horribly racist, irredeemable place we need to change to now that Biden's in office, oh, this is a great country.
Yeah.
It's morning
We've
in
got
America
the solution.
again,
it's morning
folks.
in America,
Unless, you're a pipeline worker, in which case America ain't looking too hot right now. Okay, that's it for me. I've eaten into y'all.
Yeah,
Michael.
So one of the biggest changes I think that we have to look forward to during the Biden administration is when it comes to transgender rights and transgender laws and gender bathroom and policies like that. The Biden administration announced a while ago that on day one, they were going to they were going to reinstate some Obama-era guidances for like the Department of Education and different departments about allowing transgender individuals unfettered access to whatever bathrooms or facilities that they wish, irrespective of what their biological sex is. And in addition to that, Biden's pushing forward the Equality Act, which basically creates gender-based protections for transgender individuals. And, I've talked on this show before.
That's nonsensical. You can't have a gender-based protection
and
for somebody
I've mentioned, we talked about this once before on this show, and I basically the point I tried to hammer home was you can't have gender-based protections and sex-based protections. They conflict with one another.
Yeah.
If there are unique protections given to women based on their, biological disadvantages or just differences, if any man can claim right to those privileges and facilities at any time, those rights no longer exist for women.
Well, and the left has made, just one thought, and the left has, with this move, made very clear that women were never anything other than a set of pawns for them to use.
Yeah.
That's all that ever was. the promises made by feminism and the idea of equality and being independent in these things, those have gone out the wall. They could not care less about women now. There's a shiny new thing out there.
Yes. Yeah, the transgender rights, it's the new civil rights movement for them.
Yeah.
And when I look at this, right now it seems to be the fad. It seems to be really popular with kind of the more progressive members of the Democratic base. But when I look at this, I really don't think the mainstream American public, once these laws start to get enacted and once we start to see clear biological men invade all of these female-only spaces, I don't think the general public is going to like this. I don't think they're going to go along with this. And, we'll see ramifications for this possibly for many years to come. Yeah. But I don't think this is a losing issue that is doomed to fail. What do you guys think?
Well, in a world where everything creates trauma now, everything is a trigger, it is remarkable to me that the people on the left don't consider a man in a bathroom with a girl to be something that wouldn't trigger that person, wouldn't traumatize that person. That's remarkable.
A quick point to that. One of the worst examples I've heard of this is, so if a biological male identifies as female and therefore can enter any female-only space, then biological men can enter female battered shelters.
Oh,
that's
a great point.
Yeah,
that's so much worse than locker rooms.
Yeah,
wow.
Both of you guys actually talk about this so often on the show. It's this rise of this subjective morality and a morality-based politics on the left. You hit the nail on the head, Josh, with the idea that the left sees things in terms of voting blocks. For a long period of time, we talked about this, 2 days ago? For a really long period of time, they saw the black community as a voting block that they needed.
Yes. Yeah.
They achieved the 90%, and you said it then. How do you get that last 10%? You're not going to, so you move on to the Latino community. Now we're moving from women to transgenderism, and if everything is about who you hurt, or there is this kind of this trauma culture that you're talking about, this trigger warning culture, you're absolutely right. Women should be triggered or traumatized by biological men in their bathrooms, but those people are then labeled TERFs. It's a trans exclusive radical feminist. Yeah. We saw this with J.K. Rowling. If you then say that I am being wounded or victimized by the rights that another group is just earning, then you become the bigot. And it's just kind of the transition of bigotry to different groups.
Well, and it's taken us, it depends on how you count, 4,000, 5,000 years to get to the point where this doesn't happen anymore, right, where women were protected.
Yes.
Yeah.
From men preying on them in situations like this. We fixed it. We finally fixed it. Thousands of years of a problem. We fixed it, and now they're rolling it back.
And what you mentioned, so on Monday when we were talking about the left abandoning the black community and starting to cater to Hispanics, so we also mentioned that the black community is starting to come out to vote Republican because of that. And actually, with the transgender movement and with the LGBT class, what we're seeing is that gay individuals are starting to come out for Republicans. I think for Trump, 45% of gay men voted for Trump.
Wow.
It's according to NBC News.
Wow.
So, the crazier they go, they're catering to a community, and there's more people that support trans rights, but they're catering to a community that's like less than 1% of the population, and they're alienating, the LGBT lobby, like a huge percentage of the LGBT lobby. Just another reason why I think this could be, in the long run, there's going to be a lot of harm in the meantime, and it's probably not worth it, but this could be a win for us that they're going with such a radical agenda.
I think you're right, and the tail is wagging the dog here.
Yes.
It's this really, really small minority. And Americans, look, it's super frustrating that however many million people voted for Joe Biden. That's really frustrating, and that can kind of shake your faith a little bit. But I can't help thinking that at their core, not just the majority, I think the vast majority, or at least a sizable majority of Americans, have pretty decent common sense.
Yes.
And I saw a piece from George Barna yesterday. I just skimmed it. But he was looking at the 7 things that most people say would influence them to vote. And 5 or 6 of those Republicans, conservatives, own.
Yes.
Own. And so maybe, God help us, I hope I think the Republic is strong enough to withstand what we're facing right now. but hopefully in 2 years, the tail will have wagged so hard that a lot of those common sense people will come over to our side.
Yeah, and I think, going off of what you're saying, people have common sense, and when people see men in female-only spaces, and when people see these
in your
boys,
daughter's bathroom,
or in these athletic competitions, where in wrestling or in track, when we see these males setting records and just destroying women, in the MMA, was it Fallon Fox?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just pummeled a woman.
Of course.
Fallon Fox is a biological male, transgender woman. And when people see these things, it's pretty clear what's right. So, and I think that's going to be a winning issue for us in the long run.
It's good.
No, absolutely. I think the one problem, I want to circle back to, Josh, what you were saying about this idea of sort of most people are smarter than this. They're better than this, right? You'd like to think that. I think, unfortunately, at this time...
Well, look, you're from Massachusetts. You may have a stilted view.
Too many folks in this culture are poorly educated, and it's not just the education system. It's by and large, it's the media. The media that they consume. It's everyone. I would like to kind of wager that most people are not as abreast of the news as we are in this building. We work at a news media company. We are in it 24/7. Most people aren't in it 24/7. Most Americans, as we've seen from kind of the way that people have reacted to Hollywood and to sports being invaded recently with progressive narratives, is that people don't want politics 24/7. They want to be able to kind of step back once in a while. Unfortunately, if you're not digging hard, you go to the mainstream media for your news and they give you the lie 24/7. So I guess what I want to do, how I want to start this segment is that I want to say that I'm assuming, based on the way that the media handles the left, that all of the things that we've discussed, all the things that we haven't discussed that Biden is going to kind of screw up or is going to kind of go off the far left on, is going to be exacerbated by the fact that people are not going to be informed on it because the media is not going to report it truthfully. So first, I want to take a moment for the folks at home to do just a very brief moment of silence for adversarial journalism. It was a very short life, 4 years. It was the 20th of January, 2017 to the 20th of January, 2021. So let's just a quick moment of silence. All right, it's dead. Long live the king. Okay, so yeah, adversarial journalism. I'm a big fan. I think that it is important that people in
explain to the folks.
So adversarial journalism is the idea that the media is the fourth estate. It is a power structure. It's an important institution that holds political leadership accountable, that holds culture accountable. I think that's important. I think that that's something that we should want to focus on in any civilized society, in any Western society, in any democracy. You need information. That's key. Unfortunately, that standard is only held against Republican presidents. Over the last 4 years, we've seen slogans, democracy dies in darkness from the Washington Post. Donald Trump was the enemy, and he needed to be taken on by the media. They were going to show us how evil this administration was. They're not going to show us any of the evils or missteps of the Biden presidency. I wrote about this a couple weeks ago. Jim Acosta at CNN and a couple other folks have straight up admitted they're not going to cover this administration.
Yeah, if they're not jerks to us, we'll be nice to them.
Exactly.
Essentially what he said.
Acosta said, let's see if I can find it here. I don't think the press should be trying to whip up the Biden presidency and turn it into must-see TV in a contrived way. Of course, Acosta is absolutely no stranger to contrived narratives, like walking out of White House press conferences over little arguments and disputes with Kayleigh McEnany and other folks. Just ridiculousness. He went on to say that, the Trump administration was a nonstop national emergency and that attending the White House as a journalist might merit hazard pay under the Trump administration. He doesn't think that the Biden administration is going to be like that. Daniel Dale, another CNN reporter who kind of got his beat fact-checking the president 24/7 in the last administration, has said that his beat will, quote, necessarily expand come January. Quote, it will not be a 24/7-day-a-week job, 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job to fact-check Biden. Of course, it'll take 24/7 to transcribe all of his statements, but apparently it won't take that to fact-check him. I mean, they're not going to hold this man to a different standard. We've seen headlines already. All the times Joe Biden's love for ice cream melted our hearts. That's a real headline. We've heard about German shepherds and puppies in the White House.
He was hugging the country. in that one.
hugging the country.
Nazi German shepherds.
Nazi German
Let's be
shepherds.
clear about this.
We've seen already kind of the pit. We've a model is leaving the White House as the first lady, and they did nothing but bag on her in the media.
Yes.
And now they're praising as fashion icons Kamala Harris for her her willingness to wear Chucks. And don't get me wrong, I love Chuck Taylors. If I could be sponsored by Converse, I'd wear them 24/7. They're the most comfortable shoe on the market. But this idea that Kamala Harris and that Dr. Jill Biden, remember the media wants you to make sure you use that.
She is
doctorate.
an excellent, and Whoopi Goldberg did make clear she is an excellent medical doctor.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Excellent medical doctor.
100%.
Really knows her stuff.
And so what I want to ask you guys today, there's one question that's kind of a little bit still kind of pointing back on the Trump administration, and one that's pointing forward is, I want to ask you, how does the media survive without Trump? How does the mainstream media survive without this round-the-clock adversarial mindset in the next 4 years?
They're going to dwindle. They'll survive, but they're not going to. It's going to hurt them a lot. And
Learn to code.
I, for one, I'm grabbing some popcorn, and I just can't wait to see them start to suffer. But I just on that whole thing, on what Jim Acosta said, I just thought it was so funny that he says, I don't think the press should be trying to whip up the Biden presidency and turn it into a must-see TV in any contrived way. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't need to say that unless he felt like they did that with Trump.
Yes.
So that
it wouldn't be the mindset.
Hilarious.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Consider something maybe far more ominous. You're right. They're not going to have anything to cover with Biden. So what do? You contrive things. And who's left to contrive things again? They've already built this narrative that Trump supporters
the Republican
are Nazis
terrorists.
and terrorists. And so I think that becomes the focus, where it was like a laser on Trump himself. Now I think it dispersed to sort of a shotgun pattern toward you and me and the people watching.
I actually do think that they're going to keep working on the Trump grift for quite some time going forward. I think they're going to call back to that. I think we're going to hear a lot about the Capitol riot for a year or two to come, if not longer. I think in the absence of having anything good to talk about, they're gonna continue to criticize a president that's not even in office anymore.
Sort of a wistful look back.
I think so.
Well, the New York Times was hurting badly in 2015, 2016, and Trump, arguably Trump's what saved them, at least saved them from not from closing, I don't think, but from some really painful cuts. It's going to be very interesting to see what Rachel Maddow has to say here in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, no,
I mean, once she's done gushing over how wonderful Kamala's dress was or whatever. I didn't even notice what they were wearing. I mean, it will be vacuous. There will be nothing. And I really do think that's when they'll step up the war against us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No,
the little folks.
And as soon as we know who we're going to run in 2024, that guy's going to all of a sudden become, well, at least Trump didn't do this.
Yes.
At least Trump wasn't this guy. So
you guys have hit all the narratives. I think the Trump grift persists for a couple more months. Impeachment trial coming up potentially. I think that we're going to hear all about all of the documents that have been dredged up from the Trump administration. What did he do behind closed doors? We're going to hear about plenty of that. And then I think the Gatling gun is going to turn on the Republican frontrunners for 2024 and Republican voters. Period. Now, and there's pretty good evidence for that, Josh. Based on this same report about Acosta and other members of CNN sort of turning their attention from adversarial journalism, we see Daniel Dale said as well at the time, and this was before the Capitol riot, bear in mind, that he was going to turn his attention to his intensity and rigor, quote, to online disinformation and the claims of congressional leaders. So that to me sounds like even before the Capitol riot, the plan was we're going to stop being adversarial towards Trump. He's not in office anymore. We're not going to do it to Biden. We're going to look into right-wing disinformation online so that we can, pigeonhole and screw people at Parler, conservatives on Twitter, things of that nature. And then congressional leaders, I would assume probably opposition leaders who make claims, will be lambasted like it was during the Tea Party. And so what I want to ask you guys from there is, will Biden's tenure in office, we're assuming it's probably going to be 4 years. He's not going to run again at 82. I would bet my money on it. It's possible. I'll leave it up to possible. I highly doubt it. I think he's a 4-year president and they move on, and I think he'll be accepting of that. But I just want to know, will his tenure be seen fairly? Is it possible for his tenure to be seen fairly with this media coverage?
I don't understand the question.
Will the general populace see Joe Biden's presidency
for what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good question.
No, yeah.
To you, Michael. I don't mean to be glib.
No.
I think the majority of the general populace still thinks Barack Obama was a pretty great president.
Yeah.
So I think that tells you all you need to know about that. Yeah. It's not going to be transparent.
That's an interesting thought. I think you're probably right about the majority of Americans.
Non-political.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do. But the political batch is sort of, the voters are kind of the ones that matter there. I do wonder what that split is.
But I think that bleeds over. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. Like, he was everything they say Trump was in terms of divisiveness. Obama was as well.
Yes,
or even more so.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Just people, I think a lot of actually conservative voters wouldn't even realize how much of a lie it's been from them. So, Biden is less offensive than Obama, we assume. I don't know if he has the capacity to be as...
I think he's less of... I think he's more moderate.
But from what I've seen just today, his policies are more to the left.
Yes.
So I don't think it's going to be... And they've been praised.
He gets to be everything that Barack Obama wanted to be.
Yes, exactly. And
that's good.
So far, I mean, I've seen no serious pushback from any, middle of the road establishment media outlets.
Yeah.
So people aren't gonna see this for what it was, unless on the right we finally start making some ground in the messaging war and we start to do a better job of that, which I think it's possible over the next 4 years we'll be better at that.
Yeah.
Following Trump. So
unite or die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a little bit of that feeling out there. Okay. All right, folks. Well, that'll do it for us at WJ Live. Thanks so much for tuning in, for watching us online.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel. And also be sure, after you hit subscribe, be sure to click the little bell. That will make sure that when we go live, you guys get a notice about it. That's going to help dealing with shadow banning and things like that. We'll make sure that when we are out there, you know it and are able to tune in. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us, your early evening with us, depending on where you are in the country. We appreciate you. We're powered by the Western Journal, and the Western Journal could use your support. We work very hard to produce unique, trustworthy, independent news and commentary. These two guys write a lot of it. And we do that, and we do it, frankly, we do it on a very small budget. And if you feel led to support us, that would be wonderful. If you don't, hey, just keep reading and keep tuning in. But if you do feel led to support us, please go to westernjournal.com/join, westernjournal.com/join. And there are several options there that you can pick from to support us. That's going to be it for today. For Michael and Andrew, I'm Josh Manning with the Western Journal. Thanks for joining us on WJ Live. We're going to see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Have a great day.
The Western Journal has rolled out a brand new subscription model designed specifically for readers like you, who want the unvarnished truth that the establishment media won't tell you. Our multi-tiered plans give you exactly what you want and help us fight fake news during this, the most important election of our lives. Become a subscriber to the Western Journal today and unlock exclusive features you won't find anywhere else. It's easy. Just follow the prompts in this video to join us in equipping readers with the truth.